somehow in 2021, this electric car made the top 10 best list when reviewed by a prestigious automotive publication. Well, now it is on the border, the very, very edge of extinction. Why? Because it is abysmal, its range is poor, it's incredibly expensive, and what on earth were Mazda thinking? Frankly, they're a joke. Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans, and you might be thinking, if you're viewing this channel for the first time, this guy doesn't like electric cars, he's bagging them out. Well, no, actually I've just bought two. Yep, true story, I love electric cars. This one, on the other hand, is a piece of shite. And I'm serious. I mean, people, the fact that they're even buying any of these at all, frankly, means that there are still some people on this planet that don't have any brain cells in their head and should be considered clinically insane. If you see anyone buy one of these, seriously, wrap them up in some kind of padded suit so they don't fall over and hurt themselves, because frankly, I'm worried for their sanity. The Mazda MX30, well, its sales are abysmal. They're almost as disappointing as its incredibly disappointing range of only 100 miles. Now, would that range really matter if this thing was affordable? No, absolutely not. If this car was even remotely affordable, I'd say, well, great. This thing is a good option for a lot of people. The thing is, it's not. It costs $33,000 US. Here in Australia, it costs $65,000. The thing is an absolute ripoff. Mazda produces several competitive SUVs. There's some pretty good cars they make that have internal combustion engines. Clearly, they have no idea how to make an EV though. The truth is, Mazda's electric MX30 just doesn't deliver any form of practicality, and in particular, the kind of practicality that consumers need on a day-to-day basis. That's why its sales are so disappointing. That's why it will be axed, and it's probably why Mazda thinks electric cars are not going to sell, because it made a crap one and can't figure out why no one wants to buy it. Range anxiety is a term coined specifically for EVs, right? We've all heard it before, and if you haven't, well, you've been living under a rock. The term describes when they don't believe an electric vehicle's driving range is adequate enough to be practical, so it makes them get worried that their car's going to just stop on the side of the road, right? What happens to you if you run out of battery capacity while driving an EV? It's almost as terrifying as having your smartphone die. Shock horror. Well, yeah, it's actually not that bad. You can get someone to come and charge your car and drive away. But anyway, you don't want that to happen, do you? No more battery capacity means no more driving for you. Your EV will come to a halt like a deer in headlights. Couple this fear with the fear of an underdeveloped EV charging infrastructure in some places, and you understand how important range anxiety is to choosing an EV. Now, this won't be an issue in, say, a few years' time, and in many places in the world, it's currently not. But in many places, yes, it is a thing that matters today, now. Most automakers are shooting for driving range of above 200 miles in order to counteract this issue, this challenge. Mazda has chosen to go a different route for the MX30. Less isn't more when it comes to driving range, and Japanese automaker Mazda is learning that the very hard way. It would have invested literally hundreds of millions of dollars into producing this vehicle, and it isn't selling. According to Inside EVs, the MX30 sales aren't even hitting triple digits in an entire month in the entire world. Seriously. So how much driving range does this thing actually have? Well, the MX30 gets 100 miles of range. I'm not making this up. And that could be an exaggeration. You'd have to be driving the thing very nicely to get that kind of range. That's less than half the driving range offered by popular electric SUV models like the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Tesla Model Y. But to make matters worse, the Mazda MX30 starts at $34,000 US and 65,000 Australian dollars here in Australia. So clearly the MX30's range is holding it back. If it had had a reasonable range, it would have sold in massive numbers. There is huge demand for electric cars right now all over the world. Massive backlogs. BYD has a backlog of orders of 500,000 plus. Tesla, you've got to wait a long time to get their cars. They've got a couple of million orders in backlog. Mazda, on the other hand, Well, these MX30s are sitting around in dealers gathering dust. Now, in December of last year, Mazda sold 61 MX30s in North America and Canada combined. And one might think, well, it's a fairly new vehicle. Maybe more people need to know about it. Well, now more people know about it, but they're still not interested. In fact, Mazda sold only 23 of these in the US, the United States, and Canada combined in the month of June. 23, when there is enormous demand for cars, in particular EVs right now. I think that's a pretty clear indication that people don't want this thing. Now, unfortunately for Mazda, their car sales in the US decreased in June by 53.6% year over year to only 15,000 units. These weak results over the past 2 months from Mazda have significantly affected the year-to-date result for the company, which is down 25% year over year at 142,803. Now, I've previously predicted that Mazda would go bankrupt, and I stand by that prediction. In fact, I believe the Japanese government will have to bail out most of their automotive companies to the tune of billions of dollars, and they'll just say to Mazda, sorry, but you aren't big enough to matter. So you're probably thinking, well, Europe loves EVs. They love these kinds of cars. And you'd be right. Europe does love electric cars, but not so much the MX30. In the month of April, Mazda sold 404, which was a good month for them, across the entire continent of Europe. Now, this is the world's second largest auto market. They sold 404, or 100 per week across over 30 countries. Not so good. Well, you might say, what about China? They're the biggest car market in the world, by far. In fact, the Chinese auto market makes up for about 1/3, or 1 in every 3 cars sold globally. Well, this thing isn't even on sale in China. You know why? Because they knew that no one would want it. Why? Well, there's plenty of different electric cars in China available for very good prices, which make this thing look incredibly expensive. What about Australia? Here in Australia, we have not many EVs available, and there's a lot of people wanting to buy them. Well, actually, they're doing pretty well here in Australia. Mazda actually delivered more MX30s here in Australia during the month of June than it did to the entire country of the US and Canada put together. 27 of these were delivered in June in Australia. 27 at a price of $65,000 each. Now, what does this say about Australians? Come on. I mean, Aussies, why are you paying $65,500 for this vehicle when a Tesla Model 3 during that period of time was cheaper? And it has, more than twice the range. Now, I'm a bit embarrassed for us Australians here. But anyway, let's put the numbers all together. What does this mean? It looks like Mazda is selling less than 600 MX30s per month worldwide on a car that clearly cost them hundreds of millions to develop. This car, my friends, frankly, is dead and buried. And for good reason. It's ridiculously expensive for the range you get. In fact, for the range you get, it's one of the most expensive cars on the face of the earth. Now, this little story here, it kind of reminds me a bit of what happened at BMW. BMW made the i3. And when i3 sales started stalling, BMW said no one wants electric cars. They said that very publicly. Their CEO, Oliver Zipf, said, no, we know from our experience, no one wants EVs. Well, yeah, the truth was, the public wanted EVs. They just wanted EVs that were affordable and that had a decent range. When those started becoming available, clearly, we started to realize that yes, the world does want EVs. It just doesn't want EVs that are expensive with a low range and extremely slow charging. Now you would think, right, if this thing had really fast charging, maybe that would make up for the fact that its range is so short, but it doesn't. It's one of the slowest charging vehicles on the face of the earth. 40 kilowatt DC charging is as fast as this thing can charge. In other words, you're going to be waiting an eternity after the battery runs out of juice to get it back on the road again. Frankly, my friends, I think the CEO of Mazda should be fired for this abysmal offering because it embarrasses EVs. The truth is, EVs are amazing. Look at China, right? There's some amazing electric cars there. Look at the United States. There's some amazing electric cars there. Look at this thing. Japan, wake up. You could have done better, but you didn't. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Frankly, I think that this is kind of kind of embarrassing for Mazda. And I really do believe there's a good chance this company will go bankrupt. I'll put a link in the description below to my video about that.